The silence of deep space was a constant companion aboard the SS Odyssey, broken only by the occasional hum of the engine or the soft beeping of the navigation console. Captain Daniel Reed, a veteran of space exploration, stood at the helm, eyes scanning the star-studded void. "Anything interesting on the scans, Max?" Daniel called out, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet of the command deck. Max Turner, his chief engineer and right-hand man, adjusted the sensors before replying. "Nothing yet, Captain. It's quiet out here. Wait a sec, picking up something unusual. Looks like a ship, but the readings are off." Daniel leaned closer to the main console as Max magnified the image. A small, sleek vessel appeared on the screen, its design unfamiliar and unlike any known human or allied alien technology. "That's not one of ours," Daniel murmured, squinting at the display. "Could be a civilian explorer or something else." "Distress signals?" Daniel inquired, his instincts as a rescuer kicking in. "None that I can detect, but the ship's power levels are dangerously low. It's barely keeping life support on," Max reported, his brow furrowed in concern. "Set a course, Max. Let's check it out. There might be survivors who need our help," Daniel decided swiftly, his decision firm. The Odyssey's engines hummed with renewed purpose as they approached the drifting ship. As they drew closer, the extent of the damage became apparent. Scorch marks marred the hull, and sections of the exterior appeared forcibly opened. Daniel suited up, preparing for a potential boarding. "Mike, you're with me. Let's see if there's anyone alive over there." Mike Jenkins, the ship's security officer, nodded, his expression serious as he checked his gear. The airlock hissed as it sealed, and the two men activated their magnetic boots, crossing the short distance to the alien vessel. Inside, the ship was dimly lit by emergency lights that cast long shadows. The corridor was narrow, the walls adorned with strange symbols and soft, bioluminescent panels. "Looks like we're the first humans to set foot here," Mike whispered, his voice tinged with awe. "Keep your guard up. We don't know what we might find," Daniel cautioned, leading the way with his flashlight piercing the darkness. They moved carefully, checking each compartment. Finally, in what appeared to be the ship's command center, they found her. A lone alien, collapsed beside a control panel, her skin shimmering under Daniel's flashlight. Gently, Daniel approached her, checking for signs of life. She stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open to reveal irises that glowed with a faint, otherworldly light. "Hey, you're safe now. We're here to help," Daniel said soothingly, reaching out to steady her as she attempted to sit up. The alien looked at him, confusion and fear evident in her gaze. "Help! Please!" Her voice was melodic, yet strained, her words slurred with exhaustion. "She's in bad shape. We need to get her back to our ship, stat," Mike advised, already on his comms to arrange for a medical team. With Daniel's support, the alien woman stood, though she leaned heavily against him. Her clothing was unlike anything he had seen, light, almost translucent, and adapting its color with her movements. "What happened here?" Daniel asked as they walked her slowly towards their ship. "Attack. We were ambushed. I am the last," she said, each word a struggle. "Who attacked you?" Mike asked, glancing back and forth between the hallways, his weapon ready. "I do not know. They were not from this sector," she managed to say, her voice growing weaker. "We've got you. Just hold on a little longer," Daniel reassured her, his tone firm yet gentle. Back aboard the Odyssey, the medical team quickly took over, ushering her into the infirmary. Daniel watched as they tended to her, a mix of concern and curiosity in his eyes. "She's stabilized, but she's weak. We'll need to keep her under observation," the medic reported after a while. "Thanks, Doc. Keep me posted on any changes," Daniel said. Then turned to leave the infirmary, his mind racing with questions about the mysterious attack and the lone survivor they had rescued. As the SS Odyssey continued its journey toward the Federation outpost, Daniel spent long hours with Alara and his senior crew, planning their next moves. The ship was a buzz of activity, with everyone contributing to enhancing their defensive and communication systems. Alara, now more integrated into the crew, provided invaluable insights, especially regarding interstellar diplomacy and the cultural nuances of the species they might encounter. In the command center, Daniel and Alara were joined by Max and Mike, reviewing the new strategic plans. The star map on the main screen displayed their current trajectory and highlighted areas of potential interest and known dangers. Captain Reed, the route to the outpost will take us close to the Dralon Nebula, Max pointed out. It's a less traveled area, but it could cut our travel time by 2 days. Daniel considered this, turning to Alara. What's your take on this shortcut? Is there anything we should be wary of in that region? Alara studied the map, her expression thoughtful. The Dralon Nebula is known for its unstable star formations. It's beautiful but hazardous. Navigation can be tricky due to the gravitational anomalies. However, with the right precautions, it could be worth the risk. Let's do it, Daniel decided. Always one to weigh the potential rewards against manageable risks. Max, adjust our course. Mike, make sure all hands are ready for possible turbulence. As the Odyssey altered its course, the mood among the crew was one of cautious optimism. They were becoming a cohesive unit, with Alara's presence bringing a new depth to their understanding of the galaxy. Later, Daniel invited Alara to join him for a meal in the ship's small dining area. As they sat across from each other, Daniel broached a more personal subject. Alara, you've told us a lot about your culture and your travels, but how are you holding up personally? This journey, it's not just about distance, is it? Alara paused, her utensil hovering over her meal. You're observant, Captain. To be honest, this journey is also about healing. My people were once betrayed by a species we considered friends. It was a painful lesson in trust and caution. Daniel listened intently, understanding more about her reserved nature. I'm sorry to hear that. It's hard, carrying those kinds of scars. Yes, but it's also a reminder of the need for hope and the potential for new beginnings, Alara replied, a slight smile appearing. Being here with you, with your crew, it's helping more than I expected. I'm glad to hear that, Daniel said warmly. You've become an important part of this ship, Alara. We're stronger with you here. Their conversation drifted to lighter topics, but the bond between them had clearly deepened, founded on mutual respect and shared experiences. The journey through the Dralon Nebula proved challenging but breathtaking. Nebulous clouds of gas illuminated by intermittent starlight provided a spectacular backdrop. Daniel and Alara often stood side by side at the observation deck, watching the cosmic ballet. It's moments like these that remind me why we explore, Daniel mused aloud, his gaze lost in the swirling mists of color. Alara nodded, her eyes reflecting the nebula's glow. Yes, despite the dangers, the universe is beautiful and full of wonder. It deserves our respect and our curiosity. As the Odyssey finally emerged from the nebula, the Federation outpost appeared on the horizon, a beacon of civilization in the vast wilderness of space. Daniel felt a surge of relief mixed with anticipation. The outpost was not just a destination. It was a chance to share their findings, restock their supplies, and prepare for the next leg of their journey. Almost there, he said to Alara, who stood beside him looking toward the outpost. Ready for the next adventure? Always, Alara replied, her voice steady and full of a quiet strength that had come to define her. Together, they turned back to the command center to begin preparations for docking. The outpost was just the beginning. Ahead of them lay the vast expanse of the unknown, filled with potential allies, adversaries, and endless opportunities for discovery. With Alara by his side, Daniel felt ready to face whatever the stars might hold. As the SS Odyssey approached the Federation outpost, the crew prepared for what was expected to be a brief respite from their journey through the stars. The outpost, a sprawling hub of commerce and diplomacy, buzzed with activity from numerous species and ships. Daniel and Alara stood side by side on the bridge, observing the controlled chaos with a sense of accomplishment. Here we are, Daniel remarked, a note of satisfaction in his voice. Time to share what we've learned and perhaps get some well-deserved rest. Alara nodded, her gaze fixed on the bustling outpost. And time for me to officially report back to my people. They will be eager to learn about our adventures and the alliances we've forged. As the Odyssey docked, Daniel and Alara disembarked, welcomed by the outpost's commander, an experienced diplomat named Harriet Voss. Commander Voss was well-versed in interspecies relations, and she expressed a keen interest in the insights Alara had to offer. "Captain Reed, Alara, your experiences could significantly enhance our understanding of the less-traveled regions," Commander Voss said as they sat down in her office. "Alara, your perspective as a Talithian explorer is particularly valuable. It could help shape our approach to new exploratory missions." Alara shared her experiences, detailing the encounters with the stealth ships and the subsequent communications. Her report was thorough, highlighting both the challenges they faced and the potential for peaceful engagements. Daniel supported her statements with data and observations from the Odyssey's logs. "I must say, your collaborative spirit has not only averted potential disasters, but also opened doors for future diplomacy," Commander Voss noted, impressed. "We'll be sure to incorporate your findings into our training programs." As the meeting concluded, Daniel and Alara stepped out into the main concourse of the outpost. The weight of their recent ordeals somewhat lifted. They discussed their plans for the next few days before continuing their mission. "I've been thinking," Daniel started, looking over at Alara with a contemplative expression. "There's so much more to explore, so many more mysteries to unravel. Would you consider staying with us? Your insights could continue to make a significant difference." Alara smiled, the warmth of her response evident. "I'd like that, Captain. There is much I can learn from you and your crew, and perhaps there's much I can still contribute." "Then it's settled," Daniel said, his voice reflecting his relief and happiness. "Welcome aboard, not just as a guest, but as a crucial member of our crew." Over the next few days, while the Odyssey was resupplied and the crew took some time to relax, Daniel and Alara planned their next course. The universe was vast, and their list of destinations grew longer as they plotted courses to both known and unknown regions. On the evening before their departure, the crew gathered in the outpost's observatory, a dome offering a panoramic view of the cosmos. Daniel raised a glass, toasting to their continued journey together. "Here's to the unknown," he announced, his crew echoing his sentiment with enthusiastic cheers. "May we meet every challenge with courage and curiosity." Alara joined in the toast, her expression one of determined optimism. "And may our paths be illuminated by the light of understanding and mutual respect." As the stars twinkled above them, the crew of the SS Odyssey felt a renewed sense of purpose. The cosmos was not just a realm of isolation and danger, but also one of beauty, wonder, and potential friendships. With Alara as part of their team, they were more ready than ever to face whatever lay ahead, forging new paths in the vast, starry ocean. With the outpost fading into the distance behind them, the Odyssey surged forward into the starlit expanse, her crew united and eager for the new adventures that awaited. Daniel and Alara stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the horizon, ready for whatever the universe would bring. The journey was far from over. It was just beginning. After the initial excitement of the rescue settled, Daniel spent the next few hours in his office, poring over the Odyssey's databases and star maps. His focus was on identifying any potential threats or similar incidents in the regions they had traversed. Yet, despite his efforts, the information was scant. This attacker, whoever or whatever they were, remained a mystery. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, the alien woman, whom they learned was named Alara, began to regain strength. The medical team had worked diligently to stabilize her, but she remained fragile and disoriented from her ordeal. As the ship continued its journey toward the nearest Federation outpost, Daniel decided it was time to attempt communication with Alara. He made his way to the infirmary, finding her sitting up in bed, looking around with an evident mix of curiosity and anxiety. "Hello, Alara," Daniel greeted, taking a seat beside her bed. "I'm Captain Daniel Reed. You're safe here on my ship. How are you feeling?" Alara turned her luminescent eyes towards him, a slight nod acknowledging his presence. "I am better," she replied, her voice still weak but clearer than before. "Your healers are kind." "That's good to hear," Daniel smiled, trying to put her at ease. "Can you tell me more about what happened? Any detail might help us protect you." She hesitated, her gaze drifting away before returning to meet his. "My people, we are explorers, not fighters. We stumbled upon a restricted zone unwittingly. The attackers, they came without warning, and their ships, they were like shadows, fading in and out of visibility. Daniel listened intently, processing every word. Invisible attackers. That's concerning. We have some technology that might help us identify them, but we'll need more specifics. Do you remember anything about the location or any distinctive features of their ships? Alara tried to concentrate, her brow furrowing. The ships, they were angular, dark, almost absorbing light. Sounds like stealth technology, Daniel mused aloud. We'll have our engineers look into it. Can you tell us where this happened? It was near the Helix Nebula, within the unmarked sectors, she provided, her voice growing firmer as she recalled the details. Thank you, Alara. That's very helpful, Daniel reassured her. He stood, signaling to the medical officer to give them some privacy. There's something else I'd like to ask you. It might help us communicate better. Do you understand our language well, or are you using some form of translation technology? I understand you, she replied, touching her temple lightly. My people have adaptations. We can quickly learn languages through exposure. That's remarkable, Daniel exclaimed, impressed. Language can often be a barrier, but it seems you've overcome that easily. It is necessary for exploration, Alara explained. To learn, to understand. That is why we travel. Daniel nodded, his respect for her and her culture growing. I have a proposal for you, Alara. While you're recovering, would you be interested in teaching us more about your language and culture? It would help us greatly, and perhaps we can learn from each other. Alara considered his offer, a faint smile appearing on her face. I would like that, Captain Reed. It is a way to return your kindness. Excellent, Daniel responded with a smile. I'll have our communications officer come by later with some recording equipment. We can start as soon as you're ready. As he left the infirmary, Daniel felt a cautious optimism. Alara was proving to be a source of valuable information, and her willingness to cooperate boded well for their mission. Back on the bridge, he briefed his crew on the situation. Keep a sharp lookout, he instructed his navigator and sensor officer. We need to be alert for any signs of these attackers. Max, work with the engineering team. See if you can enhance our sensors to detect these stealth ships. Max nodded, already deep in thought about the technical challenge. Will do, Captain. I have a few ideas on how to adjust the spectral filters. Daniel then turned to Mike, who had been quietly listening. Mike, prepare a security briefing. I want everyone on high alert until we know more about this threat. Understood, Captain. Mike acknowledged, his expression serious. Back in the galley of the SS Odyssey, Daniel sat across from Alara, the ship's newest and most enigmatic guest. They were surrounded by various devices aimed at facilitating communication and learning between their two species. Alara's curiosity about human technology was evident. Her eyes scanned each gadget with an intrinsic fascination. Today, I thought we could try something a bit different, Daniel began, observing her interest. Instead of just talking, I'd like to show you some of our technology. See if there's anything similar to what you use. Alara nodded, her luminous eyes brightening. I am eager to learn, Captain Reed. Your tools are different, yet familiar in function. Daniel passed her a tablet which displayed a simple mathematical problem. We use this for basic training in engineering and science. How would someone from your civilization approach this? She took the tablet, her fingers gliding over the surface as if she were playing an instrument. After a few moments, she rotated the device to show him the solved equation, now beautifully visualized in three-dimensional space. We see mathematics as art as much as science. It is a universal language, after all. Remarkable, Daniel murmured, genuinely impressed. Your approach is more intuitive than ours. There's a lot we could learn from each other. Their session continued with Alara sharing insights into her people's technology, which relied heavily on biotechnology, living systems that responded dynamically to their environment. Daniel, in turn, shared human advancements in robotics and artificial intelligence, which seemed to intrigue Alara with their rigid precision and predictability. As the hours passed, the initial formalities faded and a genuine rapport began to develop between them. Alara's initial wariness waned as she grew more comfortable with Daniel's earnest curiosity and respectful demeanor. Eventually, they took a break, walking through the ship's hydroponics bay. The area was lush with greenery, providing fresh produce for the crew but also serving as a peaceful haven from the metal confines of the rest of the ship. "This reminds me of the aerial gardens of my world," Elara said softly, her hand gently brushing against a fern. "Though we integrate more of our flora directly into our living spaces, it helps with emotional health." "I can see the benefit of that," Daniel replied, watching her interact with the plants. "We try to mimic that effect here as best as we can. Space can feel very enclosed." Elara glanced at him, a trace of a smile crossing her features. "You are very different from the stories told about humans." Daniel chuckled. "I hope that's a good thing." "It is," she assured him. "I'm beginning to understand that much of what we think we know about others is colored by our fears and what we are told, not by what we have witnessed ourselves." "That's very true," Daniel agreed. "It's the same with us. Fear of the unknown can be a powerful barrier." They continued their walk in comfortable silence, each lost in thought about the vastness of space and the myriad civilizations it held. As they returned to the crew area, Daniel decided to delve deeper into the subject of her attackers. "Elara, can you tell me more about the day your ship was attacked? Anything you remember could help us prevent a similar incident." Elara's demeanor shifted, the light in her eyes dimming slightly. "It was unexpected. We were researching a star system for its potential as a new energy source. Suddenly, our sensors picked up anomalous readings. Before we could react, dark ships surrounded us. They used a technology that disrupted our systems, making it impossible to escape or even communicate." "The way you describe their technology, it sounds advanced but hostile. Do you think they were protecting something, or was it purely an attack?" Daniel inquired, his tone gentle, trying not to push too hard. "It felt territorial but also curious. They scanned us extensively before they attacked," she explained, her voice faltering a bit. "It was as if they were learning about us, figuring out how to hurt us most effectively." "That's disturbing," Daniel acknowledged, his brow furrowed in thought. "It sounds like they've done this before. We need to be extremely cautious." "Yes, we must," Elara agreed, her expression grave. "I fear what they could do if they perceive us, or anyone, as a threat." Daniel nodded, his mind racing with strategies and precautions. "We'll increase our patrols in the sectors near the Helix Nebula, and I'll inform the Federation about your experience. We can't let this happen again." Elara placed a hand on his arm, her touch light. "Thank you, Daniel, for listening, for understanding." "It's the least I can do," he replied, covering her hand with his own for a moment. "We're in this together now." Their newfound alliance was more than just a partnership. It was a bridge between two vastly different cultures, bound by a common goal of survival and understanding. As they parted ways for the evening, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. Not only did they need to protect the Odyssey and her crew, but they also had to ensure that Elara's people were warned about the lurking danger. He headed back to the command deck, ready to put their plans into action. The challenges ahead were daunting, but with Elara's help, they had a fighting chance. The following days aboard the SS Odyssey were charged with a mixture of urgency and innovation. Daniel, taking no chances, had the crew enhance their scanning and defensive capabilities, integrating some of the biotechnological insights Elara shared. His mind was constantly on the lookout for potential threats, reflecting on Elara's description of the attackers' stealth and aggression. In the ship's lab, Daniel and Elara worked together with Max and a team of engineers and scientists to adapt the Odyssey's systems to better detect cloaked ships. The atmosphere was one of tense anticipation, mixed with collaborative spirit. "So, this is the algorithm you use for pattern recognition?" Max asked, looking over Elara's shoulder at the complex equations displayed on the screen. "Yes," Elara confirmed. "It adjusts based on environmental variables. It should help identify irregularities that could signify cloaked ships adapting in real time?" Max nodded, impressed. "We've never thought to apply real-time adaptive algorithms this way. It's brilliant." Daniel watched the interaction with a sense of pride. Not only were they potentially developing a way to detect their mysterious enemies, but they were also bridging gaps between vastly different cultures and technologies. "Let's run a simulation with the new parameters," Daniel suggested, feeling a cautious optimism. They initiated the test and the screen lit up with data streams, simulating a stealth ship attack. The first trial didn't detect the intruder until it was too late. Elara frowned, tapping at her device to adjust the settings. Let me alter the phase variance threshold. It might be too sensitive. After tweaking the algorithm, they ran the simulation again. This time, the system alerted them much earlier. Got it, Max exclaimed. Look, it's picking up the anomaly now. Good work, Daniel praised, clapping Elara on the back gently. This could give us the edge we need. With a potential solution in hand, Daniel convened a meeting with his senior staff in the conference room. The room buzzed with cautious hope as he explained the developments. We have a new detection system, thanks to Elara's insights. It's still in the early stages, but it's promising, Daniel began. This doesn't mean we can let our guard down. These attackers are still out there and they're dangerous. Mike, ever the pragmatist, chimed in. We need to consider a defensive strategy as well. It's great we can see them coming, but what then? How do we protect ourselves if they attack? You're right, Mike. Let's brainstorm some defensive tactics. Elara, can you tell us more about how your ship was attacked? Anything that might help us prepare our defenses, Daniel asked, turning to Elara. Elara nodded, her expression somber. Their first strike disabled our communications and engines. It was precise, aimed to immobilize without destroying us immediately. It seems they wanted to capture rather than kill. That suggests they might be interested in what or who is aboard the ships they target, Daniel theorized. We'll need to harden our critical systems against such strikes. Max, let's start work on redundant systems and shields. Max took notes, already brainstorming potential modifications. I'll also set up some dummy signals and decoys. If they're after our tech or information, we might fool them long enough to counterattack or escape. The meeting continued with discussions on various tactics and improvements. Daniel felt a profound responsibility, not just to his crew, but also to Elara and potentially other travelers who might wander into danger. After the meeting, Daniel and Elara walked back to the lab in silence, each lost in thought. Daniel broke the silence. You're doing great work, Elara. I know it's not easy revisiting these memories. Elara smiled weakly. It is necessary. If my experiences can help protect us and others, it is worth the discomfort. I admire your strength, Daniel said sincerely, and I promise we'll do everything we can to stop them from harming anyone else. As they resumed their work, the ship's alarm suddenly blared, a real-world test of their new system. Daniel rushed to the command deck, Elara close behind. Report, he barked as he entered. We've detected an anomaly, Captain, the sensor officer reported. It matches the signatures we input from the simulation. It's distant, but closing fast. Sound general quarters. Prepare for a possible encounter, Daniel ordered, his heart racing. Let's see if our new system is up to the challenge. As the crew scrambled to their stations, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment of truth. They were no longer blind in the dark. Thanks to Elara, they had a fighting chance, and he was ready to face whatever came next. So the alarm continued to blare through the SS Odyssey, setting the crew into a well-rehearsed frenzy of preparation. Daniel stood firm at the helm, his eyes glued to the sensor readings that flickered rapidly on the display. The unknown entity was approaching faster than anticipated, its trajectory suggesting a direct course towards them. Max, status on the enhanced sensors? Daniel called out over the commotion. They're holding steady, Captain. We're tracking the anomaly clearly now, Max responded, his voice tinged with both tension and excitement. Good. Keep me posted on any changes. Mike, are the defensive maneuvers ready? Ready to deploy on your command, Captain, Mike replied, his hand poised over the control panel that would activate the ship's newly installed defensive systems. Daniel turned to Elara, who watched the unfolding events with a mix of apprehension and determination. Elara, anything you can tell us right now could be crucial. Any weaknesses, tactics they used that you can remember? She nodded, her voice steady despite the clear strain. They rely heavily on the element of surprise and disabling their prey quickly. If we can withstand their initial strike, it may give us an advantage. Understood, Daniel said, then addressed the crew. All hands brace for impact. Defensive protocols, now. The ship shuddered slightly as the defensive systems engaged, creating a multi-layered shield around the hull and emitting a series of decoy signals intended to confuse and divert any incoming attacks. The seconds stretched into minutes as everyone on board held their breath, watching as the anomaly drew closer. Suddenly, the Odyssey shook violently, a deep groaning sound echoing through the hull. The first strike had been absorbed by their defenses. "We're holding, Captain. The shields took the brunt of it," Max shouted over the intercom. "Return fire. Target their propulsion systems. Let's slow them down," Daniel commanded, his gaze never wavering from the screens in front of him. Mike quickly coordinated the counterattack, launching a series of defensive missiles designed to impair rather than destroy, hoping to de-escalate the situation enough to communicate. The attacking ship, a sleek dark vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, was momentarily visible as their cloak failed under the onslaught of the Odyssey's return fire. It was more formidable than Alara's descriptions had suggested, bristling with what looked like advanced weaponry and sensor arrays. "Captain, their cloak is down. We have a clear shot," Mike reported, ready for the next command. "Wait, hold fire," Daniel said, his mind racing. "Let's try to communicate. Open all channels. Broadcast in all known frequencies and languages. Let them know we're not a threat, but we will defend ourselves." Alara stepped forward, her voice calm. "Let me speak. Perhaps they will understand." Daniel nodded, and the communication officer quickly set up a channel. Alara spoke into the microphone, her words deliberate and clear, her tone authoritative yet peaceful. "This is Alara of the Talithian people, aboard the human vessel Odyssey. We have defended ourselves, but seek no conflict with you. We wish to understand your intentions and find a peaceful resolution." There was a tense pause, the silence stretching out as they awaited any kind of response. The attacking vessel's weapons powered down, a sign that they were at least considering her words. After what seemed like an eternity, a crackled response came through the speakers. The voice was harsh, clipped, but understandable. "Talithian, you trespass in restricted zones. This is your warning. Depart immediately." Daniel stepped up to the microphone. "We acknowledge your claim and will comply. But know this, we are explorers, not invaders. We seek only knowledge and peaceful exchange." The response was quicker this time, less hostile. "Your actions reflect your words for now. We will monitor your departure. Do not return." As the communication ended and the alien ship slowly retreated, disappearing once more into the cloak of invisibility, a collective sigh of relief washed over the crew. Daniel turned to Alara, gratitude evident in his expression. "Thank you, Alara. Your courage and presence of mind may have just saved us all." Alara managed a small smile, her demeanor exhausted but relieved. "We learned from each other, Daniel. Today I believe we taught them as well about who we are." The Odyssey continued on its path, now rerouting to avoid the restricted zone and any further confrontations. Daniel knew this encounter was far from a victory, but rather a critical lesson in the complexities of space diplomacy and the importance of strength tempered with understanding. As the stars passed by, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. The universe was indeed vast and filled with unknowns, but each encounter, each challenge faced together, was a step towards greater understanding. The journey ahead remained uncertain, but with allies like Alara, it was one he was more prepared to navigate. The encounter with the mysterious alien ship left a deep imprint on the crew of the SS Odyssey, especially on Daniel and Alara. As they continued their journey to the nearest Federation outpost, the atmosphere on the ship was one of wary vigilance, mixed with a newfound sense of camaraderie. Daniel invited Alara to join him in his private quarters for a more informal discussion, hoping to understand more about her and her culture, which could provide further insights into navigating the dangers they might face. "Thank you for joining me, Alara," Daniel began as he offered her a seat. "After what happened, I think it's important we share as much as we can with each other. Our survival might depend on it." Alara nodded, her expression serious. "I agree, Captain Reed. The threats we face are unlike any I've encountered before in my travels. Your crew's readiness to adapt has been impressive." Daniel poured 2 glasses of water, handing one to Alara. I've been meaning to ask about your home planet. What can you tell me about your people's history and culture? Alara took a sip, her gaze distant. My world, Talitha, is one of harmony with nature. We evolved alongside our planet's unique flora and fauna, learning early on the importance of ecological balance. Our technology, our society, everything is built on the principle of sustainability. That's fascinating, Daniel remarked, genuinely interested. It sounds like a place of profound peace. It was, Alara said softly, the past tense catching Daniel's attention. But like many worlds, we have our shadows. There were times when our beliefs were tested, conflicts that threatened to undermine our principles. We learned that peace is not merely the absence of conflict, it's the resolve to find understanding amidst dissent. Daniel leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. And is that what drove you to explore the stars, the search for understanding? Yes, Alara replied, a trace of passion in her voice. Exploration is the extension of our philosophy. We reach out to the cosmos not to claim it, but to connect with it, to learn from the vast array of existence. The conversation shifted as Daniel asked about the threats they had encountered. The beings that attacked your ship, do you think they oppose your philosophy? Alara paused, considering her words carefully. I believe they fear what they do not understand. Our exploratory missions might be seen as intrusions, even though we strive for respect and peaceful contact. Daniel nodded, understanding the delicate balance required in such matters. It's a fine line to walk, making contact without provoking fear or hostility. As the conversation continued, Alara shared more about her experiences and the lessons learned from encountering diverse civilizations. Daniel listened intently, realizing that each story added depth to their strategy for dealing with potential threats and fostering alliances. Before Alara left, Daniel stopped her with a gentle gesture. Alara, I want you to know that you're not just a guest here. You're part of this crew, part of this mission. Your insights have already made a significant difference. Alara smiled, a genuine warmth reaching her eyes. Thank you, Captain Reed. I am honored to be here and to contribute to our shared journey. As she left, Daniel sat back, reflecting on the complexities of their situation. Alara's stories had not only provided context, but also inspiration. They were reminders of the resilience needed when facing the unknown, and the strength found in unity. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with Alara's wisdom and the crew's resourcefulness, Daniel felt prepared to navigate whatever lay beyond the stars.